Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. I'm Chief Paul Williams of the Springfield Police Department. A little recap of what's going on today. Our police department was struck by a tragic incident this morning, just before 1:30 in the morning. Our patrol officers had noticed some suspicious subjects, suspicious activity behind the O'Reillys at Chestnut and Glenstone. 3 officers responded to assist and encountered multiple subjects. The officers split up and each were tasked with questioning one of the subjects. At that time, a Springfield police officer was shot and received serious injuries. At this time, I'm able to identify the officer as Officer Aaron Pearson. Aaron joined the SPD 3 years ago this week. He's married. He's 30 years of age and has 2 young children. Aaron is currently hospitalized in serious but stable condition. And at the request of the family, I'm not going to release any more information or take any questions about his condition or the extent of his injuries at this time. Consequently to that, we conducted a search of the area, really pulled in every available officer from patrol, investigations, every aspect of the department, and put on a full court press and a manhunt for whoever might have been responsible for this act. During that search of the area, we encountered a male subject later identified as Joshua Haygood. He's a white male, 32 years of age, who was hiding in the area, and subsequently took him into custody for questioning. He has since been arrested. He's being held on unrelated charges in the Greene County Jail, but he is the focus of our investigation at this time. I'd like to, at this time, express my appreciation for the outpouring of support from the community, from not just the law enforcement community, but the community at large, for the family, and also for our department, and also comment and commend the actions of our officers over the last 12 hours. The patrol officers who were initially there, Aaron's squad members, were instrumental in securing the scene and rendering aid to him so that he could be transported and stabilized at the hospital. The responding officers then from both patrol, investigations, and our special response team secured the area, as we say, locked down the perimeter very quickly, which I'm convinced was instrumental in the suspect not being able to escape from that area. And then the special response team, accompanied by officers and detectives, searching throughout the area and eventually locating him. I'd also like to thank the other agencies who've been involved, Greene County Sheriff, Highway Patrol, and our federal brethren who've been able to assist in any way, shape, or form. It's been a team effort in getting us to this point. At this point, I think I'll stop and see if there are any questions.
How much longer is the scene going to be secured? We had reports that Chestnut was shut down from about Fremont to Glenstone. How much longer is that going to take?
Yeah, we've opened the street back up. We do have 2 scenes secured, both the scene at the northwest corner of Chestnut and Glenstone where it occurred, and then where the suspect was apprehended on the southeast corner of that location. But it's just those 2 scenes are secured. The streets open back up about...
Actually, we've got a portion of Chestnut Expressway east and west blocked right now, so detectives can collect evidence as they need to at Delaware. And so the traffic action's been flowing fairly smoothly. They're continuing to go southbound Glenstone, and then they just route up Delaware if they need to. So it's working. So, but it could be hours from now.
I'll say we'll maintain that scene until we're done processing, and that could be a considerable amount of time.
One last question. Can you speak to any of the evidence that was found where the suspect was? Was there anything that indicated that he was a suspect?
I'm not going to address any questions related to any evidence that's been recovered at this point in time.
Chief, yes. First of all, I'm sorry about your loss today.
Thank you.
I understand that he's still in the hospital and a lot of prayers are coming your way. My question is about Aaron Pearson himself. With him being a young man, having a young family like that, I'm just wondering how long he'd been on our force here in Springfield and how you might describe him in terms of how he was as a person or as an officer on the streets.
Well, as I stated, Aaron's 3-year anniversary is coming up this week, so he's He's been an officer here for the last 3 years. Started in January 2012. Comes from a law enforcement family, a dedicated law enforcement officer, a great street officer. In fact, we gave him a commendation back in April of 2014, a command commendation for information he developed on a suspected drug house in the area he was assigned. And he and Officer Masterson recovered 26 grams of methamphetamine, over $3,000 in cash. They turned that on to the narcotics enforcement team, ran a search warrant related to that, recovered 153 grams of meth, cocaine, LSD, marijuana, etc. Just a really good street officer who enjoyed working the graveyard shift and keeping you all safe while you're sleeping.
So he typically worked overnights. Was that with a partner usually on overnights? Is that...
No, we have all one-person cars,
Okay.
so the squad works very well together. In fact, in this instance, one officer had observed the suspicious activity and called another officer, and then 2 responded to help. So 3 officers were actually out there at the scene when this occurred.
So was he the first one there, or was he one of the others?
No, he was one of the officers responding to help a fellow officer.
At its peak today, what was the area that you were blocking off? How big was it, and how many cars and patrol officers were involved?
We actually had a perimeter set up from Chestnut and Glenstone all the way to Barnes, which is to the east, south to Traffic Way, and then back to Delaware again. So it was a fairly large area that we had like 50 officers at one time in and around the perimeter. And then we called in our special response team. They've got a lot of tools that assist these kinds of operations, and that was another 20 officers or so. So we held shifts over. We brought shifts in early, and we had some help from the Greene County deputies and Highway Patrol as well.
Paula?
What was the suspicious nature, and did I hear you right in saying that it was a police officer who observed it?
Correct.
And what was it? Can you describe what he was observing, or she?
Well, I'd say it's normal for 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what our officers do. They're not just driving up and down the streets. They're back in the neighborhoods, and they're checking businesses, and seeing 3 people behind a closed business at 1:30 in the morning was suspicious. And the officer called for assistance before he approached. Other than that, there really isn't anything to say because everything happened very quickly after that while they're in the process of questioning those subjects.
So there were 3 people behind one?
At one point,
Are you still looking for 2 others?
we are not.
And have you had a long history with the person who's in custody right now?
He has a long criminal history. He's currently on parole for assault on a law enforcement officer.
Where at?
I'm sorry?
Out of where?
Out of where, Jim?
It's Lawrence County, I think.
Lawrence County?
He's the only suspect right now.
Do what?
He's the only suspect right now.
Yes,
Do you know the nature of that assault?
I do not.
How certain are you that Joshua Haygood is the guy you were looking for?
I'm certain enough that he's the focus of our investigation. We are not actively seeking any other suspects, and we're in the process of not just processing the scene, but preparing reports, interviewing anybody associated with this, and we'll be presenting that information to the prosecutor's office as soon as we can to seek charges.
Will the injured officer be able to assist you in the investigation in terms of helping identify the people involved?
I would hope so, but we do not know that at this point in time.
Were there just 3 people behind the business, or were there more that may have seen it?
There's 3 that I'm aware of.
Chief, how do you get your your officers back out there overnight after one of their own were just injured? How do you kind of talk with them and get them back out there to do to serve and protect?
Actually, no. The officers in this squad are most closely affected, and we're working with them for when they come back to work. But everybody else, I don't have to. We had officers calling in who were off today, wanting to come in and help. We had officers that are out helping out now because we help officers over. So the officers are scheduled to work, ready to work. They've been in working all day. They'll be here all night. That's what we do. That's why we do it, and they are certainly up to the challenge. It's more of a they're focused and energized and coming out here and making sure that first that the suspect is in custody, and then secondly that everyone else is safe, both on the force and throughout the community.
You mentioned that it was a one-man patrol car. Would you like to see that change overnight? Two officers in each car?
I wouldn't have made a difference in this situation. We had 3 officers out there. 2 officer cars are really not fiscally feasible, and we function very well with what we have now.
Chief, was there, sorry, Bob.
I was just gonna ask 2 questions. First, is the family of the officer asking for anything from the community, besides obviously some?
At this point, they've been, we're a very tight community and family and law enforcement, and we're taking care of them, as well as the faith community, our chaplains, and then the medical community have really stepped up. However, the family has set up a donation, a way to make donations through the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. So any commerce bank in town, you can go make a donation to the family through that organization, and we'll make sure that those gifts get to them. But as of right now, I just left them an hour ago, and I think they're taken care of for the time being.
And one other thing, are the 2 other officers who were on the scene initially, are they on routine administrative leave?
Not at all.
Not.
Chief, was there any type of gunfire exchange? Was there just the 1 shot fired? And was it with the officer's gun, or did the suspect have a gun of his own?
I'm not aware of any exchange of gunfire, nor do we know for certain how many shots were fired. Nor is there any indication that the officer's gun was fired.
Can you tell us where the officer was hit?
No, out of respect for the family, they've asked me not to, specifically not to release the extent of his injuries or where he was shot, other than letting you know it's very serious. There's going to be a long recovery, but he is stable, and we're hoping for the best.
With everything going on in the country right now, does your department have any reason to believe that this may be some sort of attack on local law enforcement?
No.
Does this put body cams back up into the conversation for you guys?
I don't know how that factors into this at all, to be honest with you. Yes.
Did either of the other officers have any injuries? And how was Hager taken into custody? You talked a little bit about where he was found.
No one else was injured, and as far as how, when, where he was found, I'll just comment that the special response team located him hiding and took him into custody.
Did he make any statements?
Not at liberty to discuss that right now.
Well, we talked a little bit about the chaplain and support system in place, but will there be any special programs or additional resources for officers in the coming days and months? Because this is a pretty rare situation when you have the officer.
Always. We certainly always offer, through the Employee Assistance Program, any help anybody needs, but in a specific situation like this, we make a couple of options available, both counseling or through response of our critical incident response team, which will be doing a debrief with the officers within the next day or 2. And then that's a completely anonymous and confidential setting, and then we will offer them anything else they need after that. Okay, I got time for one more question. Yes.
That's my recollection. Last time an officer was shot was '97. Is that right?
No, actually, 2013 on West Grand, we had a large shootout, and 2 officers were actually about 10 officers were shot at. 1 officer was struck, not seriously. The incident you're referring to, 1997, was the last time an officer was seriously shot. That would have been the American Inn and recently retired Lieutenant Greg Whelan.
For a community our size, or would those be average statistics as far as officers being shot, or do you have any idea?
We have been very blessed in this community that we have not had officers been shot at the frequency in other communities. I think once every 2 years is way too often in my book. Since '97, that would have been very good. But I don't have any stats, or I would just say it's twice in the last 3 years is way too frequent as far as I'm concerned.
Chief, I just had one more thing, but
Okay.
not a tough one, but if you could just sort of speak to how this affects you personally, this being one of your guys, and kind of what Timmy was hitting on, it's just not very often that you go through something like this here. How is it hitting you personally?
It's not very often, and I'm thankful for that. It affects me just like it affects every one of these officers here. Major Manlove, Major McCullough, the other 300 officers out here, it affects each of us personally. I think as the leader of the organization, it certainly affects me. You know, it's like one of my kids, to be honest with you. Think of that if it's in your family and something happened to a member of your family, how you would feel. That's pretty much how I feel. So I feel a lot better now than I did 10 or 12 hours ago, simply because I think we have the suspect in custody, and we'll make sure that charges are presented and justice will prevail as far as he's concerned, and also put the community at ease that there isn't a suspect out there with a firearm willing to do harm to anyone else.
Because like you said, he is a young officer, but he's already accomplished a lot in his time on the force, right?
Sure. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.